Are we conscious enough to understand what we value and what we don't value? What we want versus what we don't want? It's hard because what we want can be momentarily based on an external pleasure, but that's not what you actually internally want. Or is it? You tell me. When you go within and you cycle your emotions, are you content? Are you in the middle scale? Or are you in the wave? It's hard to understand where we're positioned when we can't even determine what we actually value. A year ago, I started this channel. I didn't understand why, I just started talking. The more I talked, the more I understood myself, and the more I questioned myself. You go back to my videos, and my videos are far from perfect, but they strengthen me from within me. Right now, I'm at a point in my life that I know me better than anyone around. And at a time, I felt like I had to rely externally on things or people to satisfy that inner, I don't know what to call it, because it's like an inner blank space we have. It's like an inner curiosity that we all have, that we question what's within us that's so unique. We don't question the why, we simply follow. This could be seen through Venus, through your values, because whatever you formed mentally and associated an attachment with what you perceived externally, that's something that you now have a relationship with, and that's Venus. We can see the 2nd and the 7th house in astrology. The 2nd house represents your inner values, correlated with the Taurus archetype, whilst the 7th house is what we show externally. How do we relate with the world? It's in axis with the 1st house, which is the house of the self. So why am I bringing up astrology in my videos lately? I talk about shadow work through astrology, and I know I've been rambling in my last videos and just give like random examples, but I'm building now the understanding of how practical astrology is. And I'm talking from experience from within me. And I'm not perfect, far from it, but I'm building myself from within, and that's the brand I want to put out. This is inner alchemy. It's you being authentic and trying, because I feel like a lot of people want to try, put themselves out there. And that could be any lens that they want to relate with the world. But we rush to relate externally because of the stimuli that we have. And I know I sound like a grandma, but this is deep. We relate externally to everything, everyone, constantly. And we forget to relate with ourselves, to go to the 2nd house, your value, what you have to offer. How can you root yourself through the Taurus lens, fixate on your practical viewpoint based on what you have to offer, and then you can go and relate in the 7th house and start associating new relationships based on the relationship you initially and primarily have with yourself. And those are your values, your inner values. Then you can externalize those values. My camera died, so I don't really know where I ended up. What are we actually valuing? And that's something that we have to question to ourselves constantly, daily. These pleasures externally could be hijacking what we want internally. And this is hard. So astrology gave me a creative tool to reappraise myself, to go back to myself, to question myself. And I'm working on structuring and practicalizing how I frame it. But initially, it's just finding moments to talk to yourself through a walk, through you cooking, through you eating presently, through you doing exercise, whatever form can tap you into you talking straight directly to you and questioning yourself. Compassion, care, and discipline. So there's different ways that we talk to ourselves, and we can start to politicize our mind by structuring how are we performing based on the middle ground between our actions and reactions. Because between the actions and reactions, that's the subconscious. And the subconscious, the middle ground, allows us to reappraise whatever we're doing. So to question, to stop. So that's why when we're meditating or we're directly doing something, we're moving our body, or we're simply in that gamma brainwave frequency, when we're aware of every thought, but we're not attaching ourselves to any of them. We're seeing how we feel in the field based on the experience. So the field is a life situation in astrology. This practical viewpoint allowed me to ground my positioning when I'm communicating with myself. And astrology helped me guide my psyche, my physiological energy, my psychological energy, what I don't see, my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. How compassionate you're being with yourself is based on how you take care of your internal and external needs, your inner and outer. So that's why self-care is correlated with the 6th house. So the 6th house in astrology is the everyday single details, how we structure the day. So that's why, how do you care for yourself daily? And that's why I put the axis of Pisces too, because the 12th house is our spiritual space. How are we structuring the 6th house, which is us working on the dream? Basically, the self, through the Virgo and Pisces lens, can position itself based on the day-to-day details and its dream for the details. That's why we need to understand our spiritual positioning, which is the 12th house, correlated with the 2 fishes, one in the dream world, Pisces, one in the real world, Pisces 2, but that's the polarity of Pisces when Pisces is aware of their opposition, which is Virgo, the everyday details, Mercury ruled, fast-acting archetype. So that archetype stemmed from the 6th house, which the 6th house is the life situation, the space in the sky. So when you see your horoscope and you look at the specific archetype and zodiac you have in that 6th house, then you can start to build it, and that building will give you the axis of that, which is you building your confidence, because now you're working on your dream based on what you want, not the collective unconscious, but how are you grounding that fish? You ground your spiritual nature. Therefore, you can bring that Neptune lens of Pisces into the physical. So how are you caring for yourself physically and mentally, spiritually? Remember, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, but it has the lens of Neptune, creativity. That's why Pisces is exalted in Venus. It loves to indulge, to see the beauty, harmony on things. That's why Pisces loves themselves, because they can see everyone else's expressions. They can see everyone else's dreams, interpretations. They connect with you emotionally. So whatever you feel, they're feeling unconsciously, and they mold with you. They move with you. So if you're down, they can ride up in the wave with you. But sometimes if they're not aware, they can drown, and that fish starts being disorientated in the ocean. We have to move through the ocean. And Pisces being exalted in Venus already gives it that lens, that awareness of its possibilities to move in the currency of the emotions, which an emotion is basically an energy in motion. When we have an energy in motion in our brain, we can stop, reappraise ourselves, understand what we value, where are we positioned, the relationship we have with ourselves, the cycle. So my values, my 2nd house, how am I caring for myself spiritually and physically, 6th and 12th house, and my discipline based on the relationship I have with myself. How are you structuring the self and what you relate the self with? So that's relationships with people, the world, and mainly yourself. The 7th house shows you a direct link of your opposing nature. So that's why we have to discipline our opposing nature to be in a state of mind. When we are in an equanimous state of being, we can be in the middle. In the middle, we can see every emotional range of things. Therefore, we can ground our contentment based on how we're feeling internally, based on how we are replacing the cycle within. So we don't depend on whatever is going on externally. The moon is going to shift. So our reactions are going to start shifting internally based on what we perceived externally. So we can control our actions, what we put out, our output, and our input, our reactions. And the more we do that, the more we build up that relationship, the more we structure that self-confidence, and we build up our value system and find what we truly value, which is an ongoing process. But we first have to begin by doing this shadow work through astrology I preach, which is becoming a psychoanalysis of yourself. And first of all, understanding your houses, your different ways of communicating those houses. And I'm going to keep showing different triplicities and ways to practically use them and combine them so we can build different interpretations of mind and ground that state of being that seems to override us. So that's why somatic healing, it's anything that could tap you into reality now, presently, so you can shift away from that emotion. So yeah, this started happening to me about a year ago, where I was just like overgiving unconsciously, not only to other people, but I'm saying everywhere. I was just overusing my energy because of my undecisiveness within. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, but not structuring what I internally want. And that's the best and only form of self-care, which is gonna build up that confidence with yourself, that relationship with ourselves. And that relationship is gonna guide you towards your values. There's a mental perception that we're all neurally linked to, those primal 0 to 7 years developing, that we unconsciously stored every reflex, thought, feeling, emotion from other people around us. Everything we perceived, we've internalized. So that somatic connection that we have to make every single day, subconsciously, is an ongoing journey that you can't escape. No one can escape. It's a relationship that's ongoing. You're always, no matter how much pleasure you seek for externally, to fill in what's missing internally, we're always gonna go back to having that inner lack of, that we don't understand. It's a lack of understanding about ourselves. And yeah, we can find values externally that are gonna guide what the self wants to build, but that's what we have to understand, that we're building. So we're building our self-value, the second house. So that value can then be shared, and we can build a foundation, a relation based on a deep, deep, deep exchange. That's the 8th house. So you transform your value, therefore now you can interchange the energy for a value.